Welcome to the NWR Aussie Resources Conference. Next up, we have Global Lithium Resources. The ASX code is GL1. Joining us today is Ron Mitchell. He's the Managing Director. And Global Lithium Resources, pretty exciting project. They've got the 100% owned Marble Bar Lithium Project over there in the Pilbara region. But they've also got an 80% owned interest in the Manna Lithium Project down in the Goldfields, also in Western Australia. Ron, welcome to the conference. Over to you to give us an update about this exciting projects you've got.
Well, terrific. Well, firstly, thank you to the NWR team for inviting me, and it's a great pleasure to be here. Yeah, look, we've got a really fantastic project, and a couple of projects, in fact, and yeah, great pleasure to present that to you today. Look, I thought before I get started, I'll just give the audience a bit of a flavour of sort of my experience in the sector and what I'm seeing firsthand. I've been in the industry more than 11 years working for big lithium mining companies, and the reason that attracted me to Global was firstly the quality of the board and the assets, and most importantly the jurisdiction. And what I'm seeing in the market currently is a level of interest in hard rock lithium projects that is unprecedented. And the partnership piece, the investor piece is really, really compelling. So it's a fantastic time to be in this sector. And most importantly, in the hard rock space, the hard rock lithium space. So getting started then, it's always nice to kick off with our purpose and our values. We keep it quite simple: people, power, planet, our values. And this is one of the core reasons we're really attracting and retaining some amazing talent within the sector. We've found that a lot of people want to be part of the lithium story going forward. It is going to be a metal, not just for the next decade, but certainly for the next century. And our values we find it incredibly appealing to the new talent that's arriving in the company. We've got a team that's growing incredibly rapidly. So really, what makes us special? Well, I'll touch on a few things. Firstly, we're multi-asset. So we've got two projects, both with inferred mineral resource positions. So on a combined equity basis, we have close to 20 million tonnes at 1.06% lithium. Two projects gives us wonderful optionality in terms of development and also funding. The location of these assets, arguably in two of the world's greatest mining jurisdictions, being the Pilbara here in Western Australia and also our Manna Lithium Project out in the Eastern Goldfields. So importantly, both of our projects are JORC compliant. So we own two of only 13 JORC compliant lithium resources in Australia. I think that's really important to point out. And we've got a team with really strong lithium industry credentials. I mean, as I mentioned, I've been in the sector for a long period of time, and I've seen this market, particularly as it relates to the EV demand thematic, evolve quite enormously over this last 10 or so years. So we know how to do deals in the sector, and we've got some wonderful relationships which we're looking to leverage from going forward. Partnerships are important. We've got two wonderful blue chip counterparties on our register, SUSO TANA and Mineral Resources. I'll touch on both of those organisations a little bit later. But importantly, 70% of our offtake remains uncontracted, and that's very much a deliberate play by the company. We're seeing this competitive tension building throughout the industry. I touched on it earlier, and I only suspect with this incredibly tight market and high price environment that tension will continue to build, and ultimately it will allow us to leverage a wonderful deal for the company and, of course, our shareholders. Tier 1 jurisdiction, I mean, that says everything. We're operating the world's best lithium and mining jurisdiction, in my opinion. And we have all the major infrastructure pieces which are critical to get tonnes to market. And I'll touch on this board and management piece, which we feel is best in class. So just touching on the board management, Warwick Hazeldine, the non-exec chair, more than 20 years capital markets experience, and the founder of Canning's Purple. And he's advised on a number of lithium deals in the energy transition sector here in Australia. I'm also touched on my lithium experience, but I'm also the inaugural chair of the London Metal Exchange Lithium Committee. I'm there with the likes of Tesla and Ford, Toyota Tsusho, Pilbara Minerals and others. It's a representation of the entire global electric vehicle value chain. It's really been an amazing role I've held for the last 2.5 years. Greg Lilliman, a non-exec director. Greg, a very famous guy in the West Australian mining sector. He was 2IC to Andrew Forrest at Fortescue, more than 20 years working at Rio Tinto as an executive. Now, Greg brings a tremendous technical horsepower to our company. in terms of his operational performance, but also his access to contractors and networks more broadly within the sector. Dr. Chen, I always say Dr. Chen's our gateway to China. It's an important gateway. He was the founder of the company, 35 years experience in the metals market, and he's been on operational roles in Barrick Gold, and also worked in Canada and also here in Australia. Hayley Lawrence, a non-exec director, commercial lawyer by trade, significant experience in assisting us in our ESG and approval strategy. And I also working with Hayley in terms of the ESG subcommittee at board level. Kevin Hart, CFO COSEC, more than 30 years experience working with ASX listed companies. And the guys getting it done on the ground, led by Stuart Peterson, our geos and technical team, incredibly experienced, particularly as it relates to lithium exploration and development. So Stuart firsthand has experience at the Mount Marion lithium resource here in Western Australia. And we have others in our geo team. We have a number of project geologists working for the company full time with experience both at Wodgina and the Pilbara lithium operational mines up in Western Australia in the Pilbara. And Nicole Stone, a part-timer, helping us out in the community relations piece. So just an overview of the company, pretty tight register. This is a little bit dated, apologies for that. Our share price as of close yesterday was up around the $2.40 mark. We've got a market cap at the moment of about 450 odd. Cash at hand, importantly, we've got about 28 million in the bank, which is a wonderful place to be. And most of that's going into the ground in terms of a very significant exploration campaign. The register is fairly tight, as I said, a couple of strategics there. Suzhou TANA is the controlling shareholder of a company called Yubin Tianli in China. They're a major lithium hydroxide producer. So, and the chairman of that company is also has a very tight relationship with CATL, which is the largest electric vehicle battery maker on the planet. And of course, Manna Resources with 5%. Board and management, similarly, about 5%. So we've all got skin in the game and incentivized to see this project through into development. A couple of high net worth individuals, and the balance is a combination of retail and instos. We were the best performing IPO on the ASX last year in 2021, a stat we're incredibly proud of, and really built on real deal flow. We're involved in M&A quite early as a company, delivering resources. So we're very proud of our very short time on the ASX, and there's a lot to look forward to going forward. Broker research is important. We've only just been sort of taking our story offshore. We attended a roadshow in the US recently, but certainly Argonaut, Macquarie Insurance Partners are covering the stock. So I do encourage some of your listeners to reach out and get further information from the gentleman here. Touched on infrastructure earlier and how critical it is. One thing I will say, and use a slogan in the industry, that Western Australian iron ore help build the new world, and WA lithium will help power the new world. And this is really important because whilst there are a lot of battery metals projects that look good on paper, the reality is, for the most part, they're likely to be stranded assets or delayed assets because of the jurisdictional piece and the infrastructure piece. We should be incredibly proud of the infrastructure we've built over several decades here in Western Australia, and really piggybacking off the iron ore industry, which has helped open global trade markets for us as a nation and really created and generated significant wealth and expertise. And that's something that we, as the next wave of lithium suppliers, will be able to leverage from going forward, this sort of Team WA brand, as I call it. And spodumene is the world's best lithium raw material as it relates to lithium chemical production for the EV battery space. Speed to market's key. I mean, this is an incredibly tight market at the moment, and all of our customers are crying for new material. We can typically have first tons in market within 2 or 3 years post financial investment decision. And the quality is unprecedented. Producing chemicals from spodumene concentrate garners a very high quality, and it's incredibly consistent. And these are sort of some reasons why the electric vehicle value chain is now turning its attention to WA and this next wave of supply additions such as Global Lithium. Touching on our strategic investors, Manna Resources Limited, you can see here some of the strategic positioning around the rationale for their investment in the company. They have an unrivaled track record in bringing operations into production incredibly quickly. They can do it all on the upstream side of the business, so they're a wonderful partner for us and a partner we'll look to leverage from going forward. The geological and geographical synergies in relation to their own existing assets, firstly in Marble Bar, where our project's located. The Wodgina asset's about 130 kilometres as the crow flies, run by Mineral Resources, and around the Kalgoorlie region in the south of WA, you can see that the Mount Marion asset, which is run under a joint venture between Mineral Resources and Ganfeng, and you can see our Manna project just to the east of Kalgoorlie. So again, very close proximity. So there are some very obvious strategic benefits there in terms of project location. So Suzo TANA, our second strategic, again, this is the only offtake we have signed. It's a 10-year strategic deal for 30% of our production. Importantly, it's at market pricing from day one, so we're not exposed to taking a fixed price position. Look, I've been in the sector a long time. I run my own S&D model, and my firm view is that this market is going to remain tight for the foreseeable future. And for that reason, I'm happy to take exposure to market pricing, because market pricing will remain elevated indefinitely throughout this decade, in my view. And just to give you a flavour of where lithium prices are sitting, this is pricing as of Fast Markets, as reported by Fast Markets last week. You got chemical pricing in the tune of sort of mid $70,000 US a tonne, and spodumene concentrate pricing sort of close to 7,000 US a tonne. So pricing is elevated and will remain so. So let's touch on the projects themselves. So again, being multi-asset gives us this wonderful optionality, having 2 projects on our book. And to my knowledge, we're the only lithium company developing or involved in advanced exploration at 2 independent project sites on the planet. And that's quite a rare thing. And we're incredibly proud of that. So our Manna project, as I said, it's just to the east of Kalgoorlie. There's the Mount Marion assets just to the west of us. This is the best form of lithium hard rock. It's an outcropping spodumene-bearing pegmatite, which means that it's at surface and it's looking very amenable to an open pit mining operation. We have a bit of a running joke at site that, there's a number of these tripping hazards, and they come in the form of these outcropping spodumene pegmatites. The individual dikes themselves are really starting to open up now. We're getting intercepts now plus 20 metres at 1.2% lithium oxide. And importantly, we have a maiden inferred resource of close to 10 million tonnes at 1.14%, but that will expand significantly on the back of this 20,000 metre RC drilling campaign that's currently underway. We're also...
Sorry to interrupt you. How does that compare to other projects, that 1.14%?
Pretty good, very comparable to, if you look at the likes of the Mount Marion mine, when that was first discovered, it was very similar. They started off with a smaller resource, and then on the back of more significant exploration, they uncovered a much larger resource. So fairly typical, and similarly for Pilbara, there was some initial dikes that were discovered at similar sort of sizes and grades, and then as you expand and develop the resource through very significant exploration drilling, you typically the grades will open up at depth and also increase at depth, and that's certainly something we can expect at this site.
Thank you.
We are also drilling for core. We've got a 4,000 metre diamond drill campaign, which will support our metallurgical test program at Manna as well. So the upside is enormous. I'll touch on the infrastructure piece. And again, we're only 450 k's just to the north of Esperance Port. So that's likely the port will run this material out. So here's a slide for the geologists, and one that gets our geo team incredibly excited. And firstly, on the left, it just shows you some of the results we've delivered to market over the course of the last sort of month or so. Obviously, there's plenty more to come, plenty more real upside to come. The grades are good, they're increasing. The width of the intercepts are increasing as well. So it's a pretty tight resource, and this makes it incredibly amenable to an open pit type mining operation. The strike is growing on a pretty much a daily basis. We're finding lithium where previously we didn't expect to find it, which is a good problem to have. And we've got a new target area also to the southwest of the existing resource. And this is where there's going to be some really significant potential for additional tonnes. And the chart on the right just showing the cross section. Again, showing you these pegmatite swarms opening up at depth, grades lifting at depth. So again, we're very excited that what you're seeing there on the right side is effectively an open pit mine that will hopefully be developing in a couple of years. Because we are so excited and finding so much lithium, we've mobilised a third rig to site. So we currently have 2 RC rigs and a diamond drill rig. The second RC rig, which is on site as of last week, is charged with an infill program, and that will effectively help to elevate the classification of the current JORC resource. And you can see some of our geos on the right there, Logan Barber, very famous geologist on our team. You can see there's some wonderful lithium pegmatite core. So that upgrade, as I mentioned, to our mineral resource estimate will be coming to market in Q4 this year. So watch your space. We're very excited about what that will deliver. Just some pictures of our progress more broadly. Again, we've got a high focus on sustainability and safety, and to touch wood, you know, we've got an exploration campaign encompassing close to 100,000 meters of drilling, and so far 0 LTIs, and we're very proud of that. We were also recognised recently at the Diggers and Dealers conferences by Deloitte as the WA Index High Growth Award winner for 2022, along with Pilbara Minerals. So again, award we're very proud of. Let's take a look at our second project, Marble Bar Lithium Project. And I love this photo because it shows you a couple of really important things. Firstly, that beautiful white pegmatite that you can see contrasting with that beautiful red Pilbara dirt. This just shows you how much we've got undercover in terms of lithium. And you can see our drill rig there in the background. And importantly, to the north, to the top of the photograph, you can see the Marble Bar Road. And so I'll talk about infrastructure and how key that is. You know, we've got a sealed road running through our tenement package, which is, there's only one other lithium mine that I'm aware of that has a sealed road running through its tenement boundary, and that's Greenbushes down in the southwest of WA. So quite a rare thing and a wonderful thing to have for us. So again, a highly prospective geological setting. This orientation geologically is a little bit different to Manna. Manna is hosted in pure greenstone. This is a greenstone granite contact, but it is demonstrating very similar geological setting to both the Pilbara and Wodgina deposits, which are located out to the west of our Marble Bar project. Again, maiden inferred mineral resource, came to market with that resource in 2020, IPO'd with that resource in May of last year. And the upside is on the back of this very extensive 60,000 metre campaign. This is a much larger area in terms of lithium mineralisation. You know, we've identified mineralisation over 15 kilometres of the project area, so it's a far more significant, larger system. The infrastructure piece, as I touched on, is peerless in my view. You know, we've got that sealed road, as I pointed out. I'll show you the cursor, running from our project site up to Port Hedland, which is a major export terminal, not just for iron ore, but also for spodumene concentrates to global markets. Just sharing some of the results. Again, some nice grades, some good width. The diagram on the right shows you the existing Archer deposit, the 10.5 million tonne resource, shaded in red. And it's just showing you some of the results from the current exploration campaign, which is ongoing. So the roadmap ahead, I will be updating this going forward, certainly as soon as we release the resource upgrade in Q4 of this year. But we have 2 projects running them hard in parallel. As I mentioned, 80,000 metres of RC. There's a significant amount of diamond drilling at both projects planned. The assays and metallurgical test work is ongoing. We have released the metallurgical test work preliminary results to market recently, suggesting that we can produce a saleable concentrate at very high recoveries, close to a 6% con with 76% recovery. So that's a really outstanding result for us. And we're expecting a very similar result for our Manna Lithium project. Very low gangue materials, low iron content. So we are expecting to produce a wonderful concentrate that's saleable. And as a company, we aren't holding for certain gates or allowing us to move through certain gates. We are recruiting a development team in advance of this resource upgrade I talked about. We'll have a project director on the books ready to hit the ground running early next year when we kick off our feasibility study work. And the environmental heritage studies are running in parallel, and they'll be ongoing throughout the course of next year. So all going well. Would love to be in a position to make complete our feasibility program and make a final investment decision through the course of 2024, which then allows us to commence construction. It's typically a 12 to 18 month build. So all going well, we'll have first tonnes in market late 25 or early 26. And talking to customers, that's really very much a sweet spot in terms of market demand forecast and growth for the sector. So we're in a wonderful position. So just finishing off then, this is really the company on a page and why invest. We're in the world's best mining jurisdiction for a start. 2 projects gives us wonderful optionality, a great starting position in terms of a maiden inferred mineral resource, close to 20 million tonnes, and huge growth potential going forward on the back of this very aggressive exploration campaign. Infrastructure is key, and my view is there's a number of stranded assets out there because they just don't have the infrastructure piece. We're blessed here in WA by having that. We also have a team, not just within Global Lithium, but in terms of access to contractors, EPCM partners who have a phenomenal amount of lithium technical and commercial expertise, and we'll benefit from that going forward. So we are expecting a very strong pipeline of news flow. And accordingly, we're primed to become, that next major lithium producer here in WA. So people are everything to the company. We want to make this a wonderful, fun, enjoyable place to work. And we employ the best people to do a really wonderful job for us. So thanks very much for your time. Happy to take any questions.
Well, I think you should. I love that the picture of those happy smiling faces and the team that you're putting together, Ron. Well done. What a great photograph. It's good to see the girls getting stuck in there. It looks like they're looking at the core by the looks of things. Couple of questions for you. The first one has come from our audience, which is from Andrew. And he says, do you have plans to divest the gold assets?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're certainly considering that. We think there's some really good gold potential in that northern part of our tenement boundary at Marble Bar. We are planning to do some drilling there. We've got a slightly adjusted schedule to put a few holes in around the existing gold resource to the north. It's our Twin Veins gold asset. So I think what I'd like to do as MD is do a little bit more drilling and just find out what we have there before we make any decisions. My view is always, let's not give our products away. Let's do the work, do the drilling, see what the results suggest, and then do the right deal at the right time. So I hope that answers the question.
I think that answers the question very well. A question from me, and by the way, to the audience that's out there, if you've got a question for Ron, make sure you put it in the Q&A box at the bottom there, and I will ensure that he answers the question. Here we are back on screen. You talked about Port Hedland as the most likely port for, what's that like to get access? How difficult is that going to be? Because although you say products being put out to the customers in 25, 26, it's not that far away. Are you in talks with them at the moment? How difficult is it?
Yeah, it's a good question. A couple of things there. Obviously, there's 2 major exporters currently shipping spodumene concentrate out of Port Hedland. There is berth infrastructure there. We obviously will be speaking with the appropriate stakeholders to get access at the appropriate time. I think having Mineral Resources on our register as well gives us great access, quite frankly, because they're currently exporting from the port. So they'll be incentivized to make sure that we similarly have access to that port. So certainly we will be continuing those discussions going forward. We don't see that as a bottleneck. If you think about the importance of lithium going forward, critical mineral strategy for the government, the Australian and the federal and state governments, lithium is the next big deal, and we are incredibly strategically positioned. So I suspect our government will be doing everything they can to support tonnes to market.
You mentioned earlier in the presentation that you've got one offtake agreement in place at the moment, and what was really good about that was it is not a contract price. It is the market price at the time, and it's a 10-year contract. Only one. Are you leaving that for now? What was the reasoning? What was the strategy behind that?
Yeah, Kerry, our view is, and again, I've got a very good understanding of this market and how it's positioned and the interest we have. We're not in any rush to do a deal. We don't need to, quite frankly. The way offtake has been structured now, and I've been doing offtake in lithium for more than 10 years, it comes with a significant partnership piece, and that's what we're looking for. But again, we don't want to sell the farm before we know what we have in the ground. And I suspect that once we announce this very significant resource upgrade come Q4, that will be the right time to be announcing deals. I will say that we are in advanced discussions with a number of very credible tier one counterparties, all of which are lining up to put money on the table in terms of offtake prepays. So we're in a wonderful position. I would argue that having uncontracted offtake is a weapon for us.
I would suggest that's exactly right. And I was thinking more like a dance party. You're the one that everyone wants to dance with at the moment. Interesting that they're not stranded asset. You've got good infrastructure around you. Do you think that's what makes Global Lithium stand out from there? There's a lot of companies out there, all with lithium projects and saying that they've got lithium projects. You seem to be advanced with good infrastructure. Does that make you stand out from the pack? And do you think that's what makes you so compelling?
We think so, Kerry. Look, I think, as I said, I have my own view on projects out there, and I think there's three things I always look forward to consider the prospectivity of a project being able to progress through to development and ultimately production. First is the location. Where is it? Which jurisdiction? Because every jurisdiction out there has a different set of challenges. The third is obviously the class of the asset. Is it outcropping? Is it at depth? What are the grades like? Is it spodumene? Is it lepidolite? And the third is board management. You know, have you got a team that knows lithium? Do they have the relationships, the networks, the horsepower to be able to execute and push that project through? And I think we tick all of those boxes in a very big way.
I think you do too. And I could ask another dozen questions, but we have sadly run out of time, Ron. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody better than to take Global Lithium Resources into production than Ron. He's had 11 years of experience. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to take a product right into production. So Ron, thanks for joining us at the NWR Aussie Resources Conference.
My pleasure, Kerry. Thanks very much.